3 years after our divorce, my ex-husband, Julian, showed up at my door holding a massive bouquet of red roses. He had that same smug, confident smile I used to know so well. "Chloe, I kept my word. I'm back right on time to take you back." 3 years ago, he played a game of truth or dare with his friends and lost to his childhood friend, Serena. Serena had proposed a dare. "I want to see if you and Chloe are actually true love. So get a divorce and don't see each other for 3 years. She still wants to remarry you after 3 years. I'll admit it's true love." Julian had never set any boundaries with Serena. We fought about her constantly because of things like this. I thought there was no way he would agree to something so ridiculous. But to my horror, he agreed without a second thought. Sure, a bet's a bet. His friends tried to talk him out of it. Jude, think about this. Divorce is a major deal. But he just looked at me with absolute certainty. "I trust our relationship. Chloe only loves me in this lifetime. She will definitely wait to remarry me." He didn't realize that was the very last chance I was ever giving him. My thoughts snapped back to the present as he tried to shove the roses into my arms. I didn't take them. I stepped back, my voice completely flat. "Sorry, my husband doesn't let me accept flowers from other men." A confident, knowing smirk played on Julian's lips. "Still mad? All right. I'm here now, aren't I, babe? Stop being childish." Just like he used to, he stepped forward and reached out to pull me into his arms. I took another step back, my expression freezing over. "Control yourself, Mr. Gray." Hands froze in midair. The gentle, mock-tender look in his eyes never wavered from my face. "Did I really make you that mad this time? Just tell me what you want and I'll buy it for you. Anything to make it up to you." He was still so utterly convinced that a few sweet words and a credit card could fix the wreckage he left behind. As he spoke, he took another step toward me. For every step he took forward, I took one back. The look in his eyes shifted, darkening with a sudden urge to conquer, to force me to submit. "Julian, 3 years is a long time. It's enough to change everything." He nodded, seemingly agreeing. "True." I backed up until my shoulders hit the cold brick wall. There was nowhere left to run. He slammed both hands on the wall on either side of my head, trapping me in his face. It was the same old wall pinning trick he used when we were dating. Back then, he loved trapping me in corners under the moonlight just to kiss me breathless. "So, did you give me a son or a daughter?" he murmured, reaching out to gently stroke my cheek. At the mention of the child, a sharp, stabbing pain flared in my chest. 3 years ago, he knew damn well I was pregnant. Yet after losing a stupid game, he still divorced me just to please his precious Serena. And for 3 years, he completely vanished. Not a single text, not a single phone call. Yet here he was, standing before me with the sheer audacity to assume I had quietly given birth to his child, and waited around like a loyal dog for his return. A mocking laugh escaped my lips. Before I could tell him that I had aborted that pregnancy, Julian's phone started buzzing. He pulled it out. The caller ID flashed with the name My Princess. That was his contact name for Serena. I had seen it countless times during our marriage. And just like before, he answered her call instantly. "Julian, you need to come quick. My cramps are so bad. My stomach hurts so much." Serena's whiny, tearful voice echoed through the speaker. Panic instantly flooded Julian's eyes. "Don't worry, I'm coming right now." He hung up. He reached out and hastily patted the top of my head like he was soothing a harmless pet. "I have to go check on Serena first. I'll come back to find you later tonight." Before the words had even fully left his mouth, he was already running down the street. Serena was still up to her old tricks, using Instagram to passive-aggressively flaunt her hold over Julian. Her latest post showed her lying in Julian's arms, looking pale and sweaty. Julian's hand was resting gently on her stomach, rubbing it. Her caption read, "Since we were kids, he's always been the one who loves me most." I casually tapped the heart to leave a like. In fact, over the past 3 years, Serena had posted her flexes every single day. For 3 years, she posted 1,095 brag posts on Instagram, and I liked every single one of them. She boasted about everything. For instance, she didn't have a job, But Julian gave her his black card to spend whatever she wanted. She lived in the house that was supposed to be our marital home. She used my old things whenever she wanted or threw them in the trash if she felt like it. For the past 3 years, they lived exactly like a married couple. I knew she was doing it entirely to torment me, like I left was nothing but my pure contempt and indifference. Convinced herself that I was just going crazy with jealousy, desperately trying to make my presence known. The next time I saw Julian, he walked into my coffee shop with Serena clinging to his arm. They were wearing matching beige casual outfits. Julian, who had always insisted on wearing stiff, formal suits when he was with me, was wearing a trendy, relaxed blazer today. Back when we were married, I had begged him to wear matching outfits with me. He always brushed me off, saying he hated changing his style. Serena looked around my coffee shop, her eyes scanning the place with mock pity. She gasped dramatically. Julian frowned, looking at me with disapproval. I gave you so much money in the divorce.
Why?
Why are you doing such grueling manual labor? When we divorced, I demanded half of his assets. He had signed them over without hesitation, probably thinking it was just a temporary deposit. I stopped wiping the espresso machine and looked up at him, my face entirely blank. 'Cause I want to, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Julian's face didn't change. He still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. Serena offered me a fake, sugary sweet smile. Chloe, it's been 3 years. How have you been?
Great.
Serena seemed taken aback by how calm I was. Just then, Julian's phone rang. He turned around and walked outside to take the call. The second he was out of earshot, Serena's sweet mask fell off. Her smile turned into a smug, venomous sneer. Cut the act, Chloe, but don't get your hopes up too high. She looked down her nose at me, a cold laugh escaping her lips. Even if you remarry Julian this time, so what? His mother still despises you. Her perfect daughter-in-law has always been me. Julian is only marrying you out of a sense of obligation. In fact, he only came to find you today because I gave him permission. And you'll have to sign a prenup. By the way, I drafted it myself. She reached into her designer bag, pulled out a document, and threw it onto the counter. I looked down at it with sheer amusement. The terms were hilarious. I would have zero claim to any of the Gray family's assets after marriage. I was not allowed to call his mother Mom. I had to call her Mrs. Gray. I was forbidden from identifying myself as Julian's wife in public. For the world, I had to remain his ex-wife. This absurd, insulting document actually made me laugh out loud. I slid the papers back over to her. If Victoria loves you so much, why are you still just his side chick? Serena's face flushed with rage. She raised her hand, ready to slap me. The sound of Julian's approaching footsteps echoed from the doorway. Her expression changed faster than a theater mask. Tears immediately welled in her eyes, and she adopted a look of tragic, selfless understanding. Chloe, I really do want you and Julian to be happy. I just want him to have a good life. As his childhood friend, his happiness is all I care about. The prenup is just a formality. Please don't be mad at him. She was still the same cheap actress she was 3 years ago. And Julian, seeing her tears, lost all ability to think rationally, as usual. Serena, what's wrong? Julian immediately pulled Serena into his arms. His eyes filled with intense concern. Serena shook her head, putting on a brave, suffering face. It's nothing. It's my fault. Don't blame Chloe. The more she played the victim, the more Julian was convinced I had bullied her. Chloe, he barked at me, his face turning incredibly cold. Apologize to her right now. He spoke to me like a master commanding a servant. A cold smile touched my lips. He frowned, looking at me with frustration. Serena grew up with me. She's like a sister to me. He is my family. Can you stop being so incredibly hostile to her every single time? Even if it's just for my sake? Can you try to be nice to her? I remained silent. I had seen this exact show countless times. 3 years ago, I was completely sick of it. Just as I was about to kick them out of my shop, my phone on the counter began to ring with a FaceTime call. The caller ID read, my baby boy. Julian's eyes lit up the second he saw the screen. His hand shot out and swiped the green button to accept the call. I quickly snatched the phone back. My 2-year-old son's adorable, chubby face appeared on the screen. "Mommy, I miss you." Hearing that sweet little mommy, Julian practically vibrated with excitement. He was absolutely certain that I had given birth to a son. I quickly mumbled a few words to my son and hung up, just as Julian lunged to grab the phone to talk to him.
"Let me see my son."
He was grinning from ear to ear, his anger from a moment ago vanishing as if it had never existed. Beside him, Serena's face turned incredibly dark.
"He is not your son," I said.
My voice ice cold. "Don't ever come near me again, you pathetic psychopaths." He didn't even get mad, still trying to play the understanding partner.
"All right, stop fighting."
"I know you're mad, but I really miss you and our boy." That moment, I realized that a self-absorbed narc like him would never believe I had moved on until he saw my husband with his own eyes. Suddenly, Julian spoke up again. "My mom's birthday is in a few days. You're a great cook. Prepare a few of her favorite dishes. Use this opportunity to fix your relationship with her. Now that you've given her a grandson, she won't be hard on you anymore." So he did know. He knew that during our 3 years of marriage, his mother had treated me like dirt. Victoria had always looked down on my middle-class background, even though I was Julian's legal wife. Victoria never allowed me to attend any family dinners. If she was present at an event, I wasn't even allowed to sit at the same table as her. And during all of his mother's psychological abuse, Julian had always remained completely silent. A mocking sneer played on my lips. "Julian, tell me, why didn't I even have the right to have dinner with your mother back then?" He hesitated for a second before mumbling, "Well, that's just because you didn't know how to please her." Serena chimed in helpfully, "Chloe, begging your elders isn't embarrassing. Mrs. Gray actually loves it when people crawl back and beg on their knees." She was openly mocking me. I let out a dry laugh, locking my eyes onto Julian's. "Julian, it's been 3 years. The world has moved on. I am married, and the child is not yours." Then I turned to Serena. "Maybe you should try begging on your knees more often. Who knows? Maybe Victoria will finally let you through the front door." Serena burst into tears. "I shouldn't have said anything," she sobbed, covering her face as she ran out of the shop. Julian's face twisted in fury. He glared at me. "How long are you going to keep up this stubborn act?" With that, he ran out to chase after Serena. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text from my husband. "Hey, beautiful, the project is officially wrapped up. I'll be home tomorrow afternoon." A wave of relief washed over me. I figured that once Julian saw Alexander in the flesh, he would finally stop his delusional fantasies. The next day, right after I arrived at the coffee shop, I got a frantic call from my son's daycare teacher. She said that a man claiming to be my son's father and a woman claiming to be his godmother had just taken Leo away. My heart instantly jumped into my throat. I drove like a maniac straight to the Gray estate. When I burst through the doors, my blood ran cold. "You abandoned your marriage. I married the woman you divorced. You abandoned your child before he was even born. I've raised him every day since." Leo hugged Alexander tighter. "My daddy reads dinosaur books. My daddy makes pancakes. My daddy chases monsters away. My daddy cries when mommy gets hurt." Every innocent sentence felt like a slap across Julian's face. Alexander gently rubbed Leo's back. Then he looked at me. "Are you okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine now." Julian's face had gone completely pale. He suddenly looked at Leo again. When was he born?" I calmly told him the date. His lips trembled. He silently counted the months. His pupils suddenly shrank. He wasn't aborted.
"No."
I looked straight into his eyes. I almost lost him from the stress of our divorce. But he survived. When I burst through the doors, my blood ran cold. Leo was sitting on the living room sofa, his little backpack still on his shoulders. His cheeks were streaked with tears, but thankfully, he looked unharmed. The second he saw me, he burst into tears again. "Mommy." I rushed toward him. Before I could reach him, 2 bodyguards stepped in front of me. Victoria Gray elegantly set down her teacup. What kind of manners are these? Bursting into someone else's home. I glared at her. "You kidnapped my son." Victoria's expression was full of disdain. Kidnapped. He is a member of the Gray family. Bringing him home is only natural. Julian stood beside Leo, gently patting his head. His face was filled with satisfaction. I knew it. You really did give birth to our son. He looked at me confidently. Chloe, stop making a scene. Our son belongs with the Gray family. I laughed from sheer disbelief. Our son. Julian nodded matter-of-factly. You can stop pretending now. I've already seen him. He's obviously mine. Serena smiled smugly from the side. Chloe, congratulations. You finally got your wish. Julian has already acknowledged the child. You should hurry and apologize to Mrs. Gray. Once you're remarried, we'll all be one family. I looked at the three of them as if they had collectively lost their minds. Give me back my son. Julian frowned. You still want to lie? You said yesterday he wasn't my son. I understand. You were just angry. I don't blame you. I've already forgiven you. I almost laughed. Who wanted his forgiveness? Just then, hurried footsteps came from outside. The butler quickly walked in. Young master, Mr. Bennet has arrived. Julian frowned. Mr. Bennet? Before anyone could react, Alexander strode into the living room. He was still wearing the same dark overcoat from the airport. His suitcase hadn't even been opened. His sharp eyes swept across the room before landing on Leo. The icy look on his face instantly softened. Leo. Leo's eyes lit up. Daddy. He jumped off the sofa and ran as fast as his little legs could carry him. Alexander bent down and caught him in his arms. Daddy. I missed you. Alexander kissed his forehead. Daddy missed you too. Did they scare you? Leo nodded pitifully. They said you weren't my daddy. Alexander smiled gently. They're mistaken. Watching the father and son embrace, Julian's smile froze. He stared blankly. Then he suddenly laughed. So you're Chloe's new husband. Alexander didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, he looked at me. Are you all right? I nodded. I'm fine. Only then did Alexander turn toward Julian. His expression became cold again. Who gave you permission to take my son? Julian's smile became mocking. Your son. He laughed. Mr. Bennet, thank you for taking care of him these past 2 years. But now that I know the truth, you can return him. Alexander looked at him as though he were looking at an idiot. Return whom? My son. Julian's confidence never wavered. 3 years ago, Chloe was already pregnant. The child she gave birth to is naturally mine. Alexander was silent for a second. Then he let out a faint laugh. So that's what this is. He reached into his briefcase and took out a document. Chloe. I immediately understood what he meant. I accepted the folder and placed it on the coffee table. Julian casually picked it up. The smile on his face disappeared the instant he saw the first page. It was Leo's birth certificate. Father. Alexander Bennet. Mother. Chloe Bennet. Julian frowned. This proves nothing. It could be forged. Alexander calmly replied. Keep turning the pages. Julian's expression gradually stiffened. Inside were Leo's hospital birth records, his newborn footprints, the maternity records, the prenatal examination reports. Every document carried the same father's name, Alexander Bennet. Julian's hands slowly tightened around the papers. His voice was no longer as confident as before. Impossible. You were pregnant. You were pregnant 3 years ago. I looked at him calmly. I was. His eyes immediately lit up. I knew it, but that child wasn't Leo. His smile froze. I continued flatly. After we divorced, I lost that baby. You disappeared for 3 years. You never called. You never asked whether I was alive. You certainly never asked whether your child was. The entire living room fell silent. I wrapped an arm around Alexander. A year later, I met my husband. We got married. Then we had Leo. I looked directly into Julian's eyes. I told you yesterday. He is not your son. You simply refuse to believe me. Julian stood rooted to the spot. His eyes darted between me, Alexander, and the documents in his hands. Then he suddenly shook his head. No. You're lying. You must have changed the records. Serena immediately nodded. That's right. Birth certificates can be forged nowadays. I've seen it online. Alexander glanced at her. For someone who claims to know so much, he pulled another document from the folder. Here's the hospital's DNA report, and here's Leo's newborn medical file. He placed them on the coffee table one after another. The attending physician's signature, the hospital seal, the electronic registration. If you still think they're fake, feel free to sue the hospital. Serena's face stiffened. Victoria grabbed the documents and quickly flipped through them. The more she read, the uglier her expression became. She slammed the papers onto the table. Even if this child isn't Julian's, you had his child first. Where is my grandson? The room fell silent again. Julian looked at me hopefully. His lips trembled. Chloe, our baby. I smiled faintly.
Dead.
You divorced me while I was pregnant. You disappeared for 3 years. When I was rushed to the hospital, there wasn't even anyone to sign the consent forms. Julian's face instantly turned white. I didn't know. I laughed. Of course you didn't. You were too busy playing husband with Serena. You even gave her a house. My black card. My belongings. You watched her post about it every single day. I liked every single post. I wanted to see just how ridiculous the two of you could become. Serena's expression changed dramatically. Julian, I didn't know she lost the baby. Julian looked at Serena. For the first time, there wasn't tenderness in his eyes. Only confusion. You told me Chloe was just trying to guilt-trip me. You said she was fine. Serena panicked. I was just guessing. You thought. Julian interrupted coldly. You told me not to contact her. You said giving her 3 years of space would prove our love. You told me she'd definitely wait for me. Serena's face turned pale. I was only doing it for us. For us. Julian laughed bitterly. There was never an US. You said it was just a game. You said Chloe would understand. You said everything would go back to normal. Alexander suddenly spoke. Mr. Gray, if you're done discussing your failed relationship, I'd like my family to go home. Only then did Julian notice that Leo had fallen asleep against Alexander's shoulder. The little boy was clutching Alexander's tie in one tiny fist. Even asleep, he refused to let go. Julian stared blankly at the scene. That instinctive trust couldn't be faked. Alexander had been there for every scraped knee, every birthday, every nightmare, every first. Things Julian had never even witnessed. Alexander adjusted Leo comfortably in his arms before looking at the Gray family. One more thing. My lawyer has already reported today's kidnapping. The daycare surveillance footage, the driver's statement, and the witnesses have all been preserved. He looked directly at Julian. You don't get to call yourself a father because you made an assumption. You especially don't get to abduct someone else's child. Julian's pupils contracted. Police? Just then, the sound of sirens echoed from outside the Gray estate. The butler hurried in, his face filled with panic. Madam, the police are here, and he swallowed nervously. There are reporters outside too. Serena's legs instantly went weak. Our reporters? The living room instantly erupted into chaos. Victoria shot to her feet. Reporters? Who called the reporters? Alexander answered calmly. I didn't. I only called the police. Everyone turned toward the window. Outside the gates, dozens of reporters had already gathered. Camera flashes lit up the front lawn. Someone had clearly leaked the story. Julian's face darkened. The media can't find out about this. The Gray Group was preparing to announce a major acquisition next week. A scandal involving kidnapping a child would send the company's stock into free fall. Just then, a police officer walked into the living room. Mr. Gray, we've received a report that you unlawfully removed a child from his daycare. Julian immediately explained. It's a misunderstanding. I thought he was my son, registered under the company's name. And send the legal team. I want every gift that legally belongs to me documented. Serena's face turned deathly white. Julian, you can't do this. He looked at her one last time.
No.
I should have done it 3 years ago. Then he walked out. This time, he didn't look